So hey guys, this is Kylie here, and today we're going to talk about the reproductive system. So first of all, what is the reproductive system? So from the word itself, reproductive system, it is a system wherein a male and a female unites to reproduce or create offsprings. So now we're going to tackle some questions given to us by our biology teacher. Let's go. So for the male reproductive system, their urinary and reproductive system is only going through one passageway, which is the urethra. So in here, I draw a not so accurate drawing of the reproductive system here. So as you can see, the sperm is inside the male gonads, are called the testes, and it travels from the epididymis into the vas deferens, and after the vas deferens, it goes into the seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle is responsible for the production of semen, after which it goes into the area in here, which is called the prostate gland. So the prostate gland is the muscle behind the bladder, wherein it helps in the secretion of sperm, which is also called as ejaculation. So we've highlighted the pathway here with the orange highlighter, so you can see the flow of a sperm traveling here into the epididymis, then into the vas deferens, into the seminal vesicle, then into the prostate gland, into the urethra, and out into which is the area here called the penis in the urethra. So for the urinary system here, we have the ureter, and this large here is the bladder. So the bladder and then goes into the urethra as well. So the pathway for sperm cell and urine for males is the same, while for the females it's different. So here, this is a two-in-one system, which is the urinary system and the reproductive system. So I hope you understand. That's all. So for the female reproductive system, the egg only stays inside the ovary. So inside the female. So in here we have a diagram here. So we have the ovaries, the fimbriae, the one holding the ovaries, the fallopian tubes. Here is the ovary itself. So we have here the vagina, the cervix, which is a small hole here, and this is the cervical canal, a narrow small passageway for the sperm to go through, and here is the uterine cavity. So during fertilization, here highlighted in orange, as the sperm travels here, it travels into the uterine cavity, goes into the fallopian tubes and into the ovary, while in here we have the ovulation or fertilization. So during ovulation is when a female produces a haploid sex cell or an ovum, and highlighted in green is the menstruation, which is the disposal of a unfertilized ovum, or the renewal of the uterine lining here. So highlighted in green is how the menstruation works. So here, the uterine lining is then shed in the form of blood and out into the vagina here. So that's how the female reproductive system works. So now we're going to differentiate between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, it only involves one parent cell. So in asexual reproduction, one parent cell creates clones of itself, or it multiplies itself with the same DNA or genetic material, while sexual reproduction involves a male and a female parent, which is a combination of both of their genetic material, unlike the asexual reproduction, which is only the genetic material of one parent. In sexual reproduction, it is the genetic material of both male and female parents. So sexual reproduction can be done by humans, animals, mammals, while asexual reproduction is done by singular organisms such as bacteria. One exception of an animal is a starfish, which they go through fragmentation, which is a type of asexual reproduction. So bacteria, fungi, any singular celled organisms is capable of asexual reproduction. So now we're going to differentiate between external fertilization and internal fertilization. So for external fertilization, there are two kinds of external fertilization. We have oviparity, which is the eggs are fertilized outside, while there is ovoviparity, wherein the eggs are fertilized inside. So an example of oviparity is fishes, seashells, mollusks, crustaceans, particularly animals that are living in the water, while in ovoviparity, the eggs are fertilized inside. Examples are birds, reptiles, and yeah, that's it. Birds and reptiles. While internal fertilization refers to fertilization inside the female. So this is called viviparity, where nourishment is involved through an umbilical cord and a placenta, which is formed by the mother only during pregnancy. Now we're going to differentiate between direct development and indirect development. So in direct development, there is no larval stage of an organism. So example of a direct development is from a human baby to a human adult. There is no in between stage, unlike a caterpillar, which goes through a larval stage. We have a caterpillar, a cocoon, and then a butterfly. So in indirect stage, there is no metamorphosis involved, unlike in the indirect stage. So one example of this is a butterfly, wherein it starts in a larval stage, which is a caterpillar, and then into a pupa or a cocoon, and then into a butterfly. Unlike direct development, they don't have any larval stage. They don't go through metamorphosis. One example of which is a human, wherein they go from a baby human into an adult human. So that is the difference between indirect development and direct development. So human sperm and egg production happens during puberty. During puberty, our pituitary gland releases hormones such as testosterone for males and estrogen for females. So during puberty, the testosterone promotes or kickstarts the development of sperm, which is our haploid sex cells for male, while estrogen, which is the haploid sex cells for female. Haploid meaning it only has 23 chromosomes. So during puberty, testosterone has many side effects as well, including the broadening of shoulders, the development of a facial hair, the deepening of the voice, while estrogen, which is from the female, we have the enlargement of the breast area, the development of the hips, and the start of monthly menstruation or period. So now we're gonna talk about the human fertilization until childbirth. So what happens once the male and female haploid sex cells combine? So they become fertilized and they become a zygote. Now a zygote is not yet a human baby, but it's still a clump of cells wherein their main task is to divide, differentiate, and develop into much more cells. So after some time, the zygote transforms into blastomeres. Blastomeres are 16 cells, and we call the stage between the zygote and the blastomere the cleavage stage, wherein they develop a cleavage furrow, just like in animal cells, where their only job is to multiply and divide. So after the blastomeres then turn into morula, which is the end of the cleavage stage. So the morula turns itself into a blastocyst, when the trophoblast cells becomes the placenta, and the inner cell mass will become the embryo. So after the blastocyst stage, the fertilized egg then travels from the ovaries into the fallopian tube and into the uterine cavity. So in here, the blastocyst does implantation, where it attaches itself to its uterine lining in order to develop, and after some time it then develop the trophoblast cells develop into a placenta, and the inner cell mass becomes an embryo. So after also some time, the placenta is developed, and then the placenta connects to the embryo with the umbilical cord. So the umbilical cord is responsible for transporting nutrients, which from the placenta. The placenta is a kind of like a suction cup into the ovary, to the uterine lining, wherein it is rich, full of blood vessels and nutrients, which is necessary for the development of the embryo. So during the embryonic stage, we have the presence of placenta, just like what I mentioned earlier, and then the development of the amniotic sac. So the amniotic sac serves as a casing and a protective layer for the embryo, or not, we're not gonna call it embryo anymore, for the fetus to grow and develop, and it also acts as a lubricant for the development of body parts for the baby. So after 38 to 40 weeks of fertilization, the baby is then born into the world through childbirth. Now we're going to talk about contraceptives. So there are many kinds of contraceptives. We have the external contraceptives, the internal contraceptives, and the surgical contraceptives. So for external contraceptives, we have contraceptives that are over the counter, or some which are condoms, male condoms, female condoms. So for male condoms, it prevents sperm or semen from entering into the female, while internal contraceptives refers to those injectables which is prescribed by a doctor, which is in form of IUD, a type of instrument that is inserted into the female reproductive system to prevent the development of an egg, or it releases certain types of hormones such as progesterone in order to prevent fertilization, as well as pills which is then swallowed to prevent the development of an ovum or an egg cell, while surgical contraceptives involve a surgery wherein the body is prevented from letting the other sex cell from joining the sex cell involved. So for surgical contraceptives, you have vasectomy, wherein the vas deferens from the word itself, vasectomy, is cut or tied to prevent sperm cells from entering the semen, while tubal litigation is when the fallopian tubes are cut or tied to prevent the travel of to prevent fertilization from the sperm cells, or vice versa. So what are STDs? So STDs stands for sexually transmitted diseases. So it is only transmitted through sex, which is wherein fluids are exchanged, such as saliva, semen, vaginal discharge, and other types of fluids that is involved during sex. So one of examples of STDs are, gonorrhea, HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, AIDS, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, herpes, which is a type of bacteria, chlamydia, a type of bacteria as well, HPV, human papillomavirus, and syphilis. So these STDs are acquired when people have unprotected sexual intercourse, wherein an infected person infects an uninfected person, therefore they acquire those STDs as well. So that is all for the reproductive system, and I hope you've learned more about the reproductive system. That is all. Thank you.